latest statistics compiled showing the huge number of migrants who came across the Channel to Britain last year, a record 28,381 migrants, more than triple the total for 2020, bearing in mind, it's rather more difficult for people to do any sort of travelling across even Europe or anywhere to get to the coast in that year. But 28,381 migrants crossing the Channel to claim asylum here in the UK. Death toll, sadly, including 27 migrants who died in November, but a total of 34 perishing on that journey from northern France. But those numbers are absolutely extraordinary, Mehmet. And yet there still doesn't appear to be much being done by the Conservative Party, or indeed any efforts from the Labour Party. Their Shadow Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is someone who's basically pretty much in favour of open borders.
Yes, indeed. Open borders is what it's all about. I'm afraid that these huge numbers are sadly going to grow, frankly. Treble what it was last year, it's going to be even more next year for the simple reason that they can. It's easy to get here. I know, sadly, people are going to lose their lives as well, but they don't see it that way. And I'm afraid until we start making it clear that coming across in dinghies is not going to work, people are not going to be allowed to stay here, whether they present documents or not, whether they present false documents or not, until we can make that clear, then I'm afraid they will continue to come, and even more than did in the past year.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, isn't it? The suggestion has been the way to resolve this, certainly from the Labour Party, is that we need to have more safe routes. But the reality is that even if there were more safe routes, as in legal routes you could apply from wherever you are, a lot of these people would not be considered eligible. It would take them years and years, even if they were, because of the sheer numbers, and we would still have people making that perilous journey. So I don't see how that resolves it at all.
We have plenty of safe routes. We've had 25,000 people from Syria coming. We're going to have another 20,000 from Afghanistan coming. There are plenty of safe routes, for goodness sake. And to suggest that we need more is absolutely ludicrous. We already have hundreds of thousands of people coming here. Immigration is still running at a huge rate. And I'm afraid that people who say, let's have more, just don't think of the consequences. They don't think about the housing that's needed, the schooling that's needed, the medical attention that's needed, all these needs really that all people have are never taken into consideration.
Well, interestingly, of course, when our borders were open to Eastern Europeans by Tony Blair, back in the early 90s, of course. I mean, this is the interesting thing is, of course, that even for perfectly legal migrants who were coming here to work, to contribute, that again was still not thought about. The need for have enough GPs, to have enough housing, to have enough school places, places for people, public transport. There's not long-term planning for the Brits who are already here. There certainly wasn't any long-term planning for the many millions who turned up. We've also got another story today that's emerged. The Times are reporting that almost 2,000 fraudulent identity documents used by illegal migrants to try to enter the UK are being discovered by Border Force every year. Bearing in mind, those are just the ones that are being discovered. The maximum penalty is 10 years in jail, although I think that's probably very rarely actually given. But basically, people having false passports for other countries where they don't actually belong to, so that they can gain entry to the country. This has been a very big issue. I mean, the illegal migrants often just throwing away their documentation, and then claiming to come from a country where they're more likely to gain access to this country. But people claiming, frankly, to be someone who they are not, from a country from where they are not, that is a serious security issue.
It is a serious security issue. It always has been a serious security issue. Yeah. It's nothing new. Going back many, many years when I was an immigration officer, people would present false documents. But what is new is that whether they present false documents or whether they present no documents, they're being allowed to stay. And indeed, some of them slipping through the net proved to be very dangerous. Emad Al-Swilman, for example, the Liverpool bomber, he came here on a false Jordanian passport in 2014 and was allowed to stay. And it's this sort of nonsense, really, when the government says, yes, we're going to do something about it. We've got our new act coming on stream. Well, if you act on it, you already have the powers to do something about it, and you don't. So what is going to change is my question. I'm really seriously concerned about what is going to be happening over the coming year.
Yeah, indeed. And we know that's being echoed. Polling suggests that is the case. It's a major concern for a lot of voters. Mehmet, chair of Migrationwatch UK, thank you very much.